Okay, I'm going to start by going to our Schoology page here and downloading the Titanic CSV file. This is the one you want right here. Okay, and now what we need to do is go into Drive. And here's how you upload a file to Google Drive. So I click the up arrow, Files, and load that CSV file that I just downloaded. Now you'll notice right here that it says conversion on. If yours says conversion off, you need to click on settings and click convert uploaded files to Google Docs format. Once you do that, you need to come back here and click upload again and go through that process while conversion on is displayed right here. Okay, so if you do all that right, you should get a CSV file that looks something like this. I've got 2,201. Oops. Yeah, it takes some buffering to load it down there. So 2,201 data values. It says 202 right there, but our first row is taken up by the labels for these variables. So I've got 4 variables here, and I might be interested in whether or not they are related or whether or not they are independent. So the way that I'm going to look at that is with contingency tables. Now, spreadsheet programs call contingency tables pivot tables. So what you need to do is have any cell selected, but not a full column or a full row, just a single cell selected on this page, and go to pivot table report. That's going to open up a whole new sheet. Now, I want to look at, let's say, survival and gender in my contingency table. So I'm just going to call this sheet right here survival, gender. May as well call this sheet data. It's good to have simple names that you choose for your sheet so you know what they are. Now, I'm looking at survival and gender here, so that means for the rows, I want it to look at whether or not the person survived. For the columns, I want it to look at gender. And you see that I filled in the categories for survival and the categories for gender up here. Now for values, the things that I'm going to count in this part of the table, I want it to count gender again. And we want to use the function count a, not sum. And I know that I did all that right now because I've got 2,201 total values in my table. Okay, so that's the basics of setting up the contingency table. The next thing that I'm going to do to look at the charts here is I want to select in my table. So I click in the corner, hold shift, and click down here, and I'm going to do a Command C. I'm going to make a new sheet, and I'm going to name it Survival Gender Charts. Now I'm going to paste this in here, but I can't paste it any old way. I'm going to paste special and paste values only. The reason that I would paste values only is because now these are just plain values in these cells, whereas here there's a little bit of math going on in the background and some calculations happening. And this is referencing the data from this sheet right here. Whereas this stuff, these are values just entered into the cells, not linked to anything. And I'm going to actually paste special again, because what I want to do here is I want to look at column percents and row percents. So I'm just going to go through and calculate those right now. I double click on this cell, hit divide by 470 because that's the column total that I'm looking at. Divide 470, and I'm just going to repeat this same process in all of these columns. Now you'll notice that it didn't actually calculate the results. It didn't evaluate the results of this division. And the reason it didn't is because there's no equal sign in front. I can go back through and add an equal sign by double clicking, pushing the up arrow. Puts me in the front. There might be some more efficient ways of doing this, so I'll let you discover them. You can tell me about it. Okay, now I want to make these into percents. So what I'm going to do is select all of the numbers by holding Shift and clicking on the opposite corner. And I come up here to the 1, 2, 3, and go down to percent rounded. There they are, nice percents. And even though these percents are rounded, when we make charts and do math from these things, it's going to use the full precision in the background, which is kind of nice. So now I want to do row percents here. Okay, and to change them to rounded percents, I'm going to do the same process. There they are. And now you can see I've got column percents. These add up to 100% in the columns, and row percents. These add up to 100% in the rows. Now let's make some charts from these two tables. So I'll just start with this one. What you want to do is select everything except the margins. These are the margins right here with your totals. So we're going to look at the distribution of these variables here. If I'm doing row percents, that means I'm looking at the distribution of these columns right here. It's easier when we look at the chart. So I'm going to insert chart with that stuff selected. Now you need to have this selected right here. Use row 8 as headers. Mine says row 8 because this happened to fall on row 8. Yours might say something different. But I'm going to have that selected. I'm going to do a vertical bar chart. And this looks pretty good. Okay, let's insert that. Now, if you're not, just quick note, if you're not getting the legend here with the correct labels showing up, that's because you didn't select this. Okay, insert that thing. Now, what are we looking at the distribution of? Are we looking at the distribution of survival or of gender? So we're looking at the distribution of gender because for each one of these bars, it's showing me the split between male and female. Male and female. So I'm looking at the distribution of gender. Okay, but I'm looking at it through these two lenses, split up into these two other categories. I'm looking at the distribution of gender by survival. And I should just put one more thing on my chart for the horizontal axis. I am going to call this, what is this? Dead, survived. I'm looking at survival down there. Now that's a good looking chart. If we come to this one over here, select it in the same way, insert chart. And I want to make the same kind of chart. Something looks kind of funny here, right? These are not the same height, and I can't tell if it's going to 100% or not, and I kind of doubt it. If one of them is, the other certainly isn't. So what's the problem? What you need to do to fix that is come back here and switch rows and columns. Because what happened was, before, when it was making our chart, it's adding things up and looking at it this way. When it comes over here to look at it this way, these don't add up to 100% in that margin. So we need to tell it to look at it from the other angle. So I insert chart and switch rows and columns. Now when I go to the vertical bar chart here, we can see that this is much better. Oops. So what distribution am I looking at here? Okay, the red and the blue is showing me the distribution of some variable. So for all of the males, I'm looking at the distribution of survival here. So I should title this distribution of survival by gender because it's split up into these two gender categories. And the last thing I should do is edit my horizontal axis. And male, female, that means we're looking at gender down there. Okay,